Say goodbye to the Xbox One. Microsoft is fixing its biggest problem yet, and this disc hack will save your Xbox Series S. Let's discuss. And here to discuss with me yet again is Jimmy Champagne. He runs a little channel called Deck Ready and PlayStation Ready. Also, if you want to pick up any new Xbox gear or maybe buy a Series X or S console for yourself, I have the links down in the description below. What's up, guys? Breaking Xbox news. I'm sure you've already heard about it a billion times over, but I'm talking about the Bethesda delays. I'm talking about Redfall, which is supposed to come out in the summer, and Starfield, which is supposed to come out November 11th. They had a specific date for it, is being pushed back to 2023, and man, does that sting. Bethesda is your favorite publisher, isn't it? You've told me that a couple times.
They are. Redfall I knew was going to get delayed just when they showed it with a cinematic trailer a year ago. When you start with the cinematic trailer, you're not in the game.
Understandable. We're in the summer almost, pretty much, and we still haven't seen anything from it besides some random leaks from some Brazilian YouTubers, I think.
When a game gets announced, like these days, do you assume that it's going to get delayed, like by 6 months? Because I usually do. Every game I've wanted over the past couple years, I feel like has gotten at least a 6-month delay, or needed one.
I mean, I think these people should just start putting years and not seasons.
Yeah, so just wait longer.
Redfall was summer 2022.
Yeah.
So everyone thought, oh, summer 22. We didn't know which month, we didn't know when, but Redfall is going to be out. We're going to be playing this awesome shooter from Arcane, Bethesda. And of course, that's not how it has worked out. I do understand why these things happen. And if they have to take time to do this, and I think you're in agreement as well, then take the time to do it. I think we've been burned too damn much. I think
they're learning. They're evolving.
Changed everything. No one wants to be another Cyberpunk.
No one wants to be a Fallout 76.
No one wants to be a Fallout 76, and especially for Xbox, because we know that Xbox is always under some sort of scrutiny. People are always waiting to jump on them and rag on them for whatever reason. So if they dropped Redfall and it was buggy and it was terrible, and that's the first Bethesda Xbox exclusive, then that just sets the tone for the rest of the generation.
Deathloop doesn't count. Ghostwire Tokyo, same deal. They've delayed that game multiple times, and it runs really well on PS5.
Starfield, I feel like it could be a return to form and offer something really exciting, kind of like a blend of elements that we liked from Fallout with the kind of sense of wonder and the fantastical nature of the Elder Scrolls series. Take all the time you need, because if the first major RPG under the Xbox Game Studios Bethesda partnership comes out and it's looking crazy, it's not fun, it doesn't have content, whatever, it's gonna look bad on them. Xbox, they're gonna cook up something, hopefully for this summer showcase. Bethesda's a big part of who Xbox is now, but hopefully they have some other really cool announcements, some other things in store for us coming to Game Pass this year to kind of, lift our spirits a little bit. We got to talk about that Gotham Knights gameplay showcase. They showed off a little bit of the gameplay mechanics for both Nightwing and Red Hood. Okay, before I say anything, I just want to hear your thoughts.
You're going to throw me under the bus like this? All right, so
because I feel like you'll be funnier about it.
All right, so me and Ray were talking about this morning. We were both kind of excited for this game because we're both fans of the Arkham franchise, and just kind of assumed that this would be a multiplayer Arkham style game, right?
Right.
You got 4 players, but 3 players at a time. You can pick between Robin, Red Hood, Nightwing, and Batgirl. It seems like it's set up like a looter, which makes me really want to play it. And it's being made by the team who made Arkham Origins, which is kind of an underrated Batman game. It all sounds great. And then you see this gameplay. It's not good, okay?
It's a meme.
I didn't realize, like Ray brought it up to me, and then I saw a TikTok where someone showed Red Hood's gameplay from Arkham Knight, and it looks just like Arkham Knight, right? But he's also shooting people in the face, which is kind of fun. This game just completely changed the combat. You don't have any of the counter markers. You don't have any of the dodge markers. Whoever is playing it was just like sliding for no reason. There's other weird stuff, like they gave Red Hood superpowers so you can kind of like walk on nothing, like energy above the air. Nightwing has a Fortnite glider.
If you see a glider in a game now, you're gonna think about Fortnite. That's just the unfortunate
and people
truth
go, Breath of the Wild did it first, but everyone thinks of Fortnite because that game is an online game that's always relevant, and you glide in on a glider. It's like it's a thing.
They're missing a lot of the combat elements, like you said, from the Arkham series, but they're also kind of, you know, keeping that same mechanic where you can vault from enemy to enemy. Like you can be beating up one guy like 20 feet away and then like automatically like teleport backflip to another person. Yeah. But it looks worse. Like it looks like not as cool. I mean, I don't know.
And this is another weird situation where they're getting an entire extra year to develop this game, but then we see the gameplay and it's like, what have you been working on for the past year?
Yeah,
right?
There
like,
better be like some extra cool like AI enemy mechanic kind of other like stuff on the back end, like a really interesting alive procedurally generated world that I mean, I don't know, but just going off this one demo, I'm not super hyped about it.
The thing that really made it feel extremely budget to me, even though it's a full price game, is the loot screen. Like they show when you're back at the hub, you're switching costumes and it shows the different benefits on the right side, but it honestly looks like a mobile game.
First
and that's
of all, the costumes
nice.
do not look good. I mean, some of the ones that were showcased, I was like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. I just don't know. But the real reason why we're talking about this in the first place is because on top of all that underwhelming gameplay demo, they have announced that they have canceled the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of the game.
Which is arguably, I would say, kind of a good thing. Like we're finally moving on from the Xbox One and the PS4.
Well, you got to be careful with that because I know last time we talked about this, a lot of people, they are still on.
I know.
Xbox
well, they
One,
can't get
they're a little bit worried.
For PS5, which sucks. Issue is so many people have them now though, like the Series X and PS5. These games, they got to evolve, right? Like we're just getting upscaled PS4 and Xbox One games, which is not great.
Yeah, do you think this could be like the first kind of domino, I guess? Starfield, as far as we know, is not going to be playable natively on Xbox One.
I understand why publishers and the console makers are doing these cross-generational games because
money.
Yeah, money. There just aren't enough, like for a while now, there haven't been enough consoles in the wild for them to recoup development costs on these games. It made a lot of sense in the first year, but it's like, we're coming up on year 2, gotta cut the cord and start seeing some advancements in especially like open world games. PlayStation channel, love Horizon. I think it's an awesome franchise. This new one doesn't really feel like an evolution like it should, being a next gen. It felt
refined. Like,
yeah, it was just a better version of what we had.
Yeah.
But that being said, I just really like to see them kind of move on to what's next, and it seems like that's finally happening. But with this game in particular, it might not be spurred on by that reason. It might be just because the game isn't coming together well, and they probably realize it just doesn't run right on the old consoles.
You know, change is hard. It's always a sad moment, I would say, you know, like when we left the 360 era behind, when the Halo Halo 3 servers were shut down for 360.
Also, the Series S is readily available and pretty cheap, so if you really want to get in on next gen gaming, I'd go for that. And of course, Microsoft has the cloud streaming. You can just stream the game to your Xbox One. I think that's what they're saying you should do with Starfield.
Yeah, I think the Series S is a good move for anyone who wants to make the upgrade to the next generation, but they're not so sure. We do have the link down in the description if you want to check it out yourself, and it's always going on sale as well. We've seen it as low as like $250 at some points. So yeah, I am personally ready to leave the Xbox One behind, but I know a lot of people out there might struggle with it. So next up, we have to once again, this whole DRM issue that has been surrounding Xbox. DRM, it's in the bag. So just for a quick update, 2 weekends ago, there was an outage on the Xbox servers that was preventing certain people from playing the digital copies of games that they owned. And it was a bizarre problem because some people were like, it didn't affect me at all. I didn't even know about it. And some people are saying, oh, I've been locked out of my account for 4 days, can't play anything. And it ignited this whole debate on Xbox's, Microsoft's digital rights management policies. Hotly debated topic about that, but now we have some good news. Xbox has officially tweeted out from their account, we've seen significant improvement to the issue that has prevented some users from purchasing and launching games. We expect full mitigation in the coming days with the rollout of a new update. What are you expecting from this new update when they use that kind of language? Full mitigation of the problem. Do you think they're going to modify their digital rights management policies, or do you think they're just kind of gonna make it less games require online check-ins constantly.
I would assume they're just going to make it so that if you're logged into your Xbox account on your primary like home Xbox Series X, S, whatever, it'll check far less often than it currently is, and it'll go with the account versus the game. If they just move it over to the actual profile and make sure that like your account owns whatever games are on your system, because that seems like what the issue was, right? Like people weren't setting their Xboxes as their home console.
Yeah, they didn't have it set as home, and there is also a setting where you can tell your Xbox to go offline, which a lot of people were doing and having success with. Other people saying, oh, it's not working for me, nothing's working for me.
And that didn't work for you because you were specifically trying to play a multiplayer only game.
Right.
It just sucks that you were able to buy it and download it and not be able to launch it. Like that's something that I'm glad that it seems like they're working on fixing, because that's like one more problem to check off the list that could bite them in the future.
It was such a strange experience because the issue that Jimmy's referring to is that over that outage, I bought Chivalry 2 and I was able to download it, but when I tried to play it, it kept telling me that I needed an online connection to play this game. It was very strange because I was able to play other multiplayer games like Halo Infinite. At the same time, not uncommon, right? Multiplayer games go out all the time. The servers go out all the time. It's not crazy, so I didn't really think anything of it until I saw other people saying, I can't play this game that I've owned for X amount of years. I downloaded digitally. I should own it.
It's kind of a good thing that this happened now, right? Like right at the beginning of when we're starting to see stuff like Diablo 2 Resurrected. You have to check in every 30 days with the server or else you lose access to that game entirely. And that's an old game. Or they didn't really remake it like what you see on the PS5 with Demon's Souls. It's not like that level. They just like cleaned it up, made it look a little bit better,
like
and
HD
run
graphics.
better. There's no reason why you should have to ever connect to online with that game if you don't want to. So I guess it's a good thing that that's really one of the only examples we can think of off the top of our head that has a single player game checking in like that. Then we have this big issue with Microsoft where it becomes a PR nightmare for a week or so. Then they have to fix the DRM and kind of get ahead and nip it in the bud, right? Like ultimately, I think that's going to help us.
I will say that the response seems to be pretty prompt.
Yeah.
I would say it all happened over the course of a couple days.
The issue is it's not affecting everyone, right? Like if it was every single person who had an Xbox was not able to play games because they could not connect to the Xbox server, that would be a disaster. But this, like you said, is affecting everyone kind of differently, and it affected you.
It was a first world problem by very definition. Dang it, I want to jump into Chivalry 2 and throw spears at people.
And people were saying that Sony, like the PlayStation version of DRM, basically lets you play patched versions of games as long as it's your home console, X, Y, and Z. They are having similar issues where PSP classics that people had downloaded to their Vita or their PS3 were expiring, and then you couldn't launch it anymore. The digital future, like normally those expiration dates are set for like 2099 or whatever, but it's like, why do you need that there in the first place? It sucks like when I get home and I want to play Destiny and I get the servers are down error and it's like, oh, great, what am I going to play now?
For any of these companies, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, this is not the last time we're probably going to hear about something like this, because we're moving more towards digital games, throwing out physical copies. We're moving towards, society that wants more multiplayer games, wants more online experiences.
You're kind of getting to where PC was like a decade ago. Like right now, when you buy Halo, it's just the disc is like a checker. It's just like, oh, you have the game. On PC, like a decade ago, I got Skyrim. I remember in like a PC DVD case, and there was no disc in there. It was just a Steam code printed on a label.
Perfect.
I was like, what? Like, this is crazy.
Wait a minute.
And now that's like the norm. But I will say, as a PlayStation player, I'm real jealous of your backwards compatibility situation where you can just put your 360 disc in, works great. Cannot do that with my PS3 games, which I still own.
I had an old copy of Hunter the Reckoning, which is an Xbox original. Came out forever ago. You can put that into your Series X and it will work. I played it with my wife and a few of my friends, 4-player co-op. I was living in 2003, man. It was great.
I guess we're sticking with the DRM topic for this next story, though, which is really interesting to me.
Right. It comes at an interesting time for sure. This is probably something that Microsoft has obviously been working on in the process of filing, which would allow you to take a disk, put it into an external disk drive, hook that up to a Series S or maybe even a handheld console, and with your disc, you can access the digital version of that game and download it and claim ownership of it.
If you go back to like moving from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, that was the whole issue, is like they wanted to make it so discs would have multiple uses, but then once you like used it once, it tied to your account, you had to transfer the license to GameStop.
Specific.
And now we're getting to the point where they want to say, yeah, like you can plug this disc drive into your Series S, and if it's a game you bought on disc for like your older Xbox, it'll still just add it to your account and work. And another thing that people are really like linking in their heads, that this is getting ready for some sort of handheld.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense when you consider the fact that traditional handheld devices, the Switch, they can't, they don't have a disc drive. Very obvious.
Yeah, and you got to think about it. Like Xbox has all these like generations of games that are playable on the Series X. If they had some sort of handheld introduced, you would want it to be able to take advantage of these older games that you might have on disc. So like imagine if you had a disc copy of Fusion Frenzy, right? And then you put it in your Series X, and then you go on this theoretical Xbox handheld, and you can just download a version of Fusion Frenzy from the cloud, and it'll just work. That's awesome.
That
I mean,
is awesome. Yeah,
they'll run into the
dream.
issue of like, you know, the used game thing, but like who's selling a used copy of Fusion Frenzy, right?
Fusion Frenzy is goated. I
love that
have
game.
fond memories of that game. I would say this really goes a long way in preserving the longevity of your console for all my Series S owners out there, because obviously, as we all know, Series S is an all-digital console, so that kind of locks you out of, you know, picking up a used copy of a game at a GameStop or secondhand off your friend for super cheap, and then not being able to play it on your Series S because you don't have a disc drive. If this patent goes through and they start producing it, it could be really awesome for the versatility of your console.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the Series S, because, you know, like a disc drive, it's cheap, right? They could have included a disc drive very easily with the Series S, but they want to recoup the lower cost of that console, and get the easiest way to do that, give people a reason to subscribe to Game Pass. Biggest reason to subscribe to Game Pass is you have a console without a disc drive. It's really smart on Microsoft's side of the fence. Like, way they're really pushing towards streamable subscription service style stuff. That's what makes them different, and that's why I think they're doing cool stuff.
So if you wanted to read through the actual patent that they're filing, I found it on Reddit, and I actually linked it down in the description below.
It would be cool if you're like borrowing a game from someone and you put the disc in, right? It would give you like, I don't know, 6 months of access or something to that digital version, and then when that time goes up, if you don't have the disc anymore, you could just buy it for a discounted price, the actual digital game, or if you had the disc, you could just put it in and re-authenticate it. Like, there's a bunch of weird little cool workarounds they could do for something like this. But yeah, it just gets me thinking about a handheld, because I don't know, I love the Steam Deck, right? I would be awesome to have Game Pass like totally accessible on there. Just open it up so much more, and that's what keeps you in that ecosystem, right? You've got the save transferring, you buy the games once on your Xbox Series X, you have it across all your devices, and then taking it one step further with a disc, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So if you want to keep up with the future of Xbox, physical, digital, streaming to your TV, whatever, make sure you subscribe, set your notifications to all.